Hi everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. This way. Yes. So I want to thank everybody for coming today. Obviously, after a year and a half when everybody's been in one way or another, it's always good to see as many people in person. But as mentioned, all you guys in person, so we really appreciate you making it today. So we know, kind of as a group more people, we know that real estate agents like two things. They like wine and Stephen Thomas. So we're bringing you both.
Good, how are you?
And whatever order you take that in, go for it. And we also know that school started this past week, so wine can be taken later or right now. But we are obligated. I don't want to give like a pitch or anything because it's kind of a GR thing. We have to do it here. But we just wanted to let you know about the guarantee rate. So we are one of the top 5 mortgage retail banks in the country. And the reason that we want to guarantee rate for those that have been working with us for over a year and a half since we've been with them is making sure that we have competitive pricing, they have their digital side, and they have a lot of products. And we have to make sure we can execute on time for everything. Right? I was actually shooting a video this morning for our pre-approvals. And one of the things that always hits me is like that pre-approval leverage that we give out and send it. You guys know that we just don't send a pre-approval. If we send it out, we want to make sure it's closed. And the contingent time period, when you talk to us about it, it's really a commitment. We really want to stick to that. It's a big thing for us. So we appreciate the trust and opportunity to work with you all. And we're just going to continue to try to get better. So we always appreciate feedback, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. We all need it if we want to get better. So I really appreciate y'all coming. And without further ado, put something right in his mouth. Isn't that good timing, right? Like, when you eat at a restaurant, you're like, first bite, hey, how is everyone? So, Stephen Thomas.
Thank you. That was by far the best introduction ever. Stephen Thomas and wine. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. So let's go ahead and get started. Of course, I have a lot to cover because of all the noise that you guys are constantly hearing right now. So if you can't see, I apparently shouldn't have sat here because now nobody's sitting over here. So you can make your way over here if you're having a hard time seeing some of these slides. And of course, you guys know I'm loud. So, but if I'm not loud enough, let me know. I'll make it louder. But I always want to start off with some fun photos, summer fun photos. Here you go. And afterwards, give me your card. I'll go ahead and give you a copy of the presentation as well. I could do that. So these are some fun photos. These are MLS photos. They never disappoint. There's always new ones. People are ridiculous.
First off, sold this.
Yeah, I don't know if they sold it. Yeah, they sold it because everything sells now. It's a Nickelodeon kitchen. That's good. This doesn't even come close to one that I showed in San Diego. San Diego had an all green house everywhere. I love this because it reminds me of a home I saw in Rancho Santa Margarita back in the day that was all purple, everything. And if you see that, that is purple marble. That is very expensive to remove, install, everything. It was, I don't know what they were thinking because I don't remember purple ever being popular for colors in the home. And, yeah, right? You can actually smell it, right? And I just don't understand. His and her baths, that's a duvet, or whatever, bidet, thank you. How about this one? Every realtor right now trying to explain this nutty ass market to their clients. So yes, this is hard to do. Explaining it when you have everybody telling you it's about to explode or implode, it's gonna pop, it's a crash. You're gonna hear that for a long time, and I'll explain why in a moment. So buy at top of the market, wait for crash. Yeah, we've all heard this, right? So this is what everybody's dealing with right now. Should I buy right now because it's about to be the top of the market, or I'll wait for this crash? It's the most ridiculous thing that I've come across because I'm looking at everything, and then I have to listen to these perma bears, clowns, whatever you want to call them. They're putting together vlogs, video blogs that everybody subscribes to, and it's all clickbait. And there are several of them out there. But let's go ahead and let's see. I'm not sure. Let's go into the introduction. And you guys know me. I've been doing this for a long time. Lots of kids. Zeke turns 3. He's 3.5. He turns 4 in February. He's going to go shack up with his brother so that he's not down the hall too close to me anymore, because he's a loud kid. And then I'm turning his room into an office because it's pretty private. Yes, we've been all over the press in our company's reports on housing. There's something about education and data. And people don't understand this, but it's so important because there's so much misinformation out there that this is what it's about. You use data to help ease the fears of your sphere, your neighbors, your family, your friend, everybody out there. Because what they're driven on is fears, which is why they're listening to all this junk, clicking on it, believing it, then they're making decisions based upon the junk they're listening to. And it's not a good idea. I don't really focus that much on closed sales data. I follow a lot of it. It helps me in writing and stuff like that, but I do have a couple sold slides in here, and I do have it part of my reports, but I don't really talk about it. Why? Because it's the past. Past doesn't really tell us what's going on right now and in the future. You need to pay attention to the road and looking at the active available number of homes to show your clients, that's supply, and demand. How many people are right now opening up escrow? I can't even properly gauge demand right now, because when you have 50 people or 100 people through, there's no way to gauge how many people are coming through. You know what it is. Demand is astronomically high. But there's no way to really gauge it. I gauge it with the last 30 days worth of pending sales, and I look at that same thing over time, and I've been doing it since 2004. So I know what the data looks like, and I know how hot the market is. And then I look at the speed of the market based upon all that, and I talk about it. It's called market time. I call it expected market time. It's a phrase I coined back when I was representing sellers in the 90s. And then the reports are used for listing presentations, price reductions, getting people off the fence and into escrow. It's about making more money because you can articulate really what's going on. Even for the brand new agents, there are companies that they say you have to have the report in order to be part of our company's brand new agent division. But it's about setting expectations. Like I said, we have reports that dot all over Southern California. I'm looking at expanding to other areas. I've been looking at the Bay Area. Bay Area thinks that they all have that they're so great. Our median sales prices is where we compete in Orange County with the Bay Area. In Orange County, out of all the 5 Southern California counties, is by far the most expensive county. Waiting will be costly. These are some of the ones that I've had, and it's like I've got to hit these people over the head over and over again. Crash coming, question mark. I had to do that so that I get all the people that are reading about crash so that they would actually look at this. Of course, I got lots of agents that subscribed to the report right after I did this one. And I'm not doing it for clickbait. I'm trying to do it because I can't stand all the noise that's out there. Is housing unaffordable? I hear this all the time. People think it's unaffordable just because of the price, but what they're forgetting is where incomes are today, which is about 30% higher than they were prior to the Great Recession. A, B, we have lower interest rates. You have to calculate it all to figure it out, and that's not what people do. They just look at price, they compare it to where it was prior to the Great Recession, 2 totally different enchiladas there. So summer transition, I did a report on the summer transition. I'm about to do one on the autumn transition. Not a good time to buy, and explained why. Permanently parked, so our homeowners are not moving in Orange County or other counties. In Orange County, they're moving at a rate of once every 24 years. That's based upon the true number of homes available and the true number that closed last year in 2020. It's not that 5 to 7, it's not that once every 10 or 11 years that NAR and CAR like to sell out there. They want everybody to think that they need to move. That's not really accurate, never was. They're only interviewing people that successfully sold. That's what sellers, basically, they interview them. There are a lot of sellers do it over and over again when they're young. They have that town home, then they have the small home, then they do it again. So they do it a lot. But when they get older, like myself, we don't want to move ever again. I'm tired of the big giant heap of junk that I got to go through and boxing it all up. I'm not going to do it again. I am permanently parked. So that's what's happening. And you can talk to me more about that if you want more interesting facts. Forbearance, foreclosures, and facts. This was the most recent one. And this is just trying to get rid of the whole idea of there's going to be a foreclosure wave. So go to reportsonhousing.com and you click on subscribe, and then I email these out. If you guys are a subscriber, I'll bet you don't even know how many links there are at the bottom. We've been adding a ton of links. There's infographics and different things like that. You got to take advantage of all of it, because even our charts link, if you haven't clicked on that before, there's like 32 charts in there. So we just inundate with as much information as possible, and I don't even use that many in my reports. We have excerpts for all of your social media, blogs, websites, all that stuff. Lots of charts, like I said, comes out every 2 weeks. The next one comes out this coming up Monday for LA, Orange County, and San Diego. This is what I said, brand new infographics. You can customize it, and then there's a whole bunch of these new features as well, so you could throw that up on social media. $15 per month, $150 per year. You get a month free. I have a credit card authorization form that you guys can fill out afterwards. So why is housing so crazy? That's the big thing, right? This I put together just for this meeting, because this is kind of where I want to even go tomorrow when I'm doing my the Facebook Live, because people need to understand why we're in this crazy market that we're in today, and they need to understand the fundamentals of how we even got here. It's not through bad lending or anything like that. It's not the savings and loan scandal of the 90s or the subprime of the 2000s. It's simple supply and demand, Econ 101. And as a result of simple supply and demand, we know too little supply, not enough demand. It's like Cabbage Patch dolls for houses back in the 80s. And what we have here is 17% across the United States. 17%, that is where we are as far as appreciation is concerned. And I was listening to CAR, I think it's going to be about 20% by the time we get to the end of the year, is in California. So, and this was 2013 and 2014, 2012 and 2013. So 2013 we peaked and then we came down. The reason it came down, the appreciation stopped and it went the other direction, is because we had interest rates that went from 3.5% to 4.5%. That slowed things down. We need higher interest rates in order for that to happen. I thought we were going to get there, and we got all the way up to 3.18%, and then it came down. And where is it? As of this morning, it came out, it's 2.77%, I believe. That is from the Freddie Mac. They do a national index, and they've been doing it for over 50 years. And we'll get into that, but we have interest rates that are the problem. So we have a supply issue, right? I'm going to call it, and we started with it. As soon as we hit 2020, in Orange County, it was the third lowest ever at the start of 2020. So we were dealing with a very low inventory to begin with back in 2020, and prior to the pandemic hitting. And then the pandemic hit, COVID-19 hit, and now we have homeowners that aren't placing their homes on the market. For the month of April, 50% fewer homeowners came on the market. And in the month of May, it was 42% fewer came on the market. So we had a slew of homes that were not coming on the market. And as a result, we have an inventory crisis. So we had too few homes, and then we had not enough homes coming on the market all year long. And so now we're dealing with what I refer to as the inventory crisis. Not a forbearance crisis, not a crash, not any of this bubble stuff. It's an inventory problem that's not going to fix itself anytime soon. This is Orange County. This is compared to the last 3 years. I was doing it based upon the last 5 years, but I'll show you why I have to do 3 years, because it's closer to what reality is. So this is actually comparing all of 2020 to 2017, 18, and 19. We are missing 1,844 homes. This is not that bad compared to some, like San Diego County missing 4,700 homes. And then guess what? They did it again. They're missing 4,700 homes so far in 2021. They have a problem when you're missing 9,000 homes on the market, right? And it's eating into their number of escrows, which is our livelihood, A. B, it's also eating into the number of closed sales. So January to July 2021 in Orange County, down 6%, missing 1,562 homes. That's what we're dealing with right now. What happened last year is we were way down, and then we had months that were better. and it started out in like August. I don't think that's what's going to happen this year. I think it's going to be more of a right around the norm that comes on, because there was, some people said that there were some people that waited, it was pent up, and inventory, that big flood, that big wave that was supposed to happen of all the pent up people because of COVID never occurred. It slightly did. You just didn't feel it because it was being eaten up so fast with demand. So speaking of demand, so we talked about supply, inventory crisis. Now we have demand. It has everything to do with interest rates. And this is when COVID started. See where that went up? At first, initially, we had interest rates that went down and then they went up. I don't know if you remember what was going on back then. That's because the whole financial system broke at first when we first went into it. And it was very, very hard to get a loan when we first went into COVID. But since that point on, all the way down, we hit 17 all-time lows. And this is the primary mortgage market survey that I was talking about. This is as of this morning, 2.86%. And the 17th lowest one was actually January of this year. We got down to 2.65%. We're at 2.86%. We're knocking on the door of that same ridiculous low, and there's something that can bring us right back down to that low and go even lower, and that is if we have any kind of a stock market correction, which a lot of people are talking about because of people like, we have too many investors that are in their 20s that are on Robinhood doing digital coins and all that stuff. That's exactly what's fueling all of this stuff. You could call it that there's this fantastic things with Bitcoin. That's an aside note, but it is entirely has to do with this other generation of people that are putting money into there and they're gambling. And they're doing it collectively, and it's making it go up higher. That's really what it is. I have listened to too many people, and that's my big fat opinion on it. You can make money on it, though. It's good. It's good stuff. So, but mortgage rate projections, we all thought that we were going to have higher mortgage rates across the board. Everybody did. And we were all fooled. Because what happened was, I told you, we went from all the way down here, all the way up to, this is the 10-year treasury, by the way, and this is if you want to follow what's going to happen with your mortgage rates, you got to follow this thing. And it went all the way down to where we had this low back in, it is actually August, and then it went all the way up to 3.18% by the time we got to March. And then I thought it was going to continue so that we could get right back up to where that Himalaya was on the left, and that was where we had interest rates right about 3.75%. And instead, it reversed course and went down. So we went all the way up to 3.18%, and then we came back down. And that's what's going on with the 10-year Treasury. And this 10-year Treasury is having a hard time busting above that 1.3% mark. And if you look at interest rates in time, you could see that since 1980s, interest rates have come down, and that is because our world has been getting smaller and smaller. The population's getting older and older. Money's sitting around longer. There's fewer places to park it. Doesn't do as much with it. So interest rates go down. That is why it goes down. It's not because Federal Reserve and all these reserve systems, people think that that's why we have low interest rates. They can't control what's going on with investors. The 10-year Treasury since 1980 has been going way down. Do you see? It's still going down, and it should have gone down to where it is about right now. And that's where it was headed to. We went below it. We went below 1% for the 10-year Treasury, and we should have had interest rates about 2.5%. We didn't have it because the financial system was broken. So people think that they're printing a lot of money at the Federal Reserve, and they're right, there has been some printing, but they don't actually print money. It's all digital anymore. And if you look at that blue line at the bottom, that is where we have the mortgage-backed securities. You can see that mortgage-backed securities, we bought a lot in the 2000s to get out of the Great Recession, right? So we started buying them in 2008, and we kept on buying them. And then we stopped buying them, and they said, we've done it. We're doing quantitative easing. That's what they did, and it flatlined. But what happened? People refinanced their homes. How come the line stayed the same? Because they kept on taking that money and putting it right back into the system. So they were still propping up the whole entire mortgage market. And until they finally stopped doing that, on the right-hand side, and you see the blue line coming down, that's because they stopped reinvesting it. So when you hear all this tapering talk, they're only talking about this taper is that they're only going to stop doing it, so we flatline. You can see we've gone from 1.3 trillion to about 2.422 trillion. See how it's gone up? That's how much mortgage securities they're holding now, which is more than ever before. The rest of that, the white line, is they've done a lot of other things besides working with mortgage-backed securities. We care about MBSs. So you hear about this Fed tightening. This is what everybody's talking about. The market has already figured this out. They already know what's going to happen. And as a matter of fact, when they're talking about tightening, you can find out all about this stuff. You got to read the fine print. The fine print is boring. That's what you rely on me to do. Because when I read the fine print, you can see they're doing $40 billion per month. That's what they're continuing to do, which is why it's going up. But they're reinvesting $60 billion that are refinancing. They're putting it right back into the system. So they're doing $100 billion per month. That's not what they advertise. They just say $40 billion per month. They're really doing $100 billion per month. That's what they're doing to keep things going. So if you think that they shut everything off, they're still going to be doing the $60 billion per month, which means interest rates won't be affected when they stop doing it. So, and I want you to know that even though they're talking about tapering, it's already baked into the system. They already know, they're already expecting it to happen. So the 10-year Treasury, even after that news yesterday, guess what the 10-year Treasury did? It went down. It went down a little bit. Interest rates got a little bit better. Even though they're talking about tapering, that's because they've already figured it out. It's already in there. They know that they're going to do it by the end of this year. And I'll show you something else. 10-year Treasuries, long-term debt here in the United States, there's an appetite for it around the world. This, if you see this is the yield. If you right now can buy US 10-year Treasuries and get a 1.28% yield, that's not much, right? It's not much. But where else can you get something like it? UK, you get 0.56. Sweden, negative. Spain, negative. You see that? All negative. Australia is a 1.15, so pretty close to us, still less than where we are at. There are a couple places where you can get better rates. Mexico, India. Is that where you want to park your money? Probably not. Not as secure of an economy. People like to go to the United States, and it's at such a good rate. That's what the appetite is, and it will continue, and it will keep our interest rates low. That's because people want to park their money someplace around the world because we're getting older and we're living longer. So understand that. So low rates are here to stay, and it's going to be the fuel of demand, and it's going to continue for some time. We're going to have a very hard time going up in interest rates. Anybody see that Chapman? They said that we're in a bubble and it's going to crash. Did you hear that? They actually said that, and they used one of my charts. I was pretty upset, but I'm happy with them because they do subscribe, but I want them to stop doing disinformation. They think that interest rates are going to be at 4.75%. That's what they're predicting. And that is not anywhere close to where interest rates are going to be. We're having a hard time even pushing up to 3% right now. But they've been wrong on interest rates for about 6 years. So the housing market, yeah, crazy. Supply and demand, baby. This is what it's about. And as a result, we have values going way up. And you see this? I saw a bunch of people say that the values went down because July's median sales price went down. It went down for Orange County, went down for San Diego, went down across California. You have to be a nerd like me to understand this. And here, welcome, I'm going to show you. Median sales price is just the middle value. It changes every single July except for last year. For the last 10 years, July is less than June for the median sales price. Do you really think that values go down from June to July every single year in the middle of summer? No, it's just a mix issue. It's the same mix issue that's cyclical all the time, and this is what happened. So it actually went down. It's at 1,095,000. It was at 1,130,000, and some people are saying that, look, it's already correcting because of all their different stories that they have. Get ready. There's going to be more of these stories. But values are way up. If you see that, it's skyrocketed up, right? We're at 1,095,000, and this is detached homes, by the way, in Orange County. $1,095,000 is the median detached value at this point. And the way that values are continuing to go up and the way that the market is going, I'm telling you right now, it's unhealthy. It doesn't mean it's a bubble. Doesn't mean it's gonna implode and crash. I'm telling you, it's unhealthy. It's like eating Super Bowl junk food. You eat all that stuff and you have a couple beers. By the time you get the second half, you can't even touch one more chip. It's unhealthy. So you can continue to eat and just know that you can't do it forever. And I'll tell you what happens when we keep on going up later. But this is through the first quarter, haven't even done this through the second quarter. The amount of equity gained, that little fine print says California gained $70,000. That's the average homeowner has $70,000 more equity year over year. The only state that beats it is Idaho, thanks to Boise. And they're a small little amount. We have a lot more citizens making $70,000 versus the few in Idaho, 71,000. There are economic cycles. I'm here to tell you, there's actually 5. And there's one in between autumn and winter. It's called holidays. But I'll get into that. We have seasons. It's seasonality effect. This happens in our realm of the world. It didn't happen last year because we had the season called COVID. and it totally messed with everything, messed with the numbers completely. So we have the spring, which is when inventories slowly rises, and then we also get demand surges and peaks. That's what happens. Demand surges, it typically peaks right around April or May. And it's the best time of the year in terms of numbers of escrows being placed in. And it was this year, it is typically every year, it wasn't last year for a myriad of reasons. And then we get the summer market. That's where you get a bunch of kids that get out of school. Like me, I have a lot of kids at home, so we had to go entertain them. We went on 2 trips. We did a little tenting, and then we did a little VRBO in South Utah for fun. And but we went on vacation, we went to the beach, we were part of clubs and different things that were going on. People were actually able to do something. They had camps. They had, the junior lifeguard camp and stuff like that, and the beaches were like this. We went to the beach. It was great. We went back to normal. And enough of these people did this, and if you're a buyer and you wrote 100 offers, you want to take a break. Enough of them collectively took a break at the same time to bring demand a little bit and allow inventory to rise. And you could see this thing coming. Come on, we had pent-up demand from last summer. It still was, we were having a hard time because the interest rates were falling at the same time, which was just, like throwing gasoline on a fire, but still people wanted to go out there and enjoy their summer a bit. So that's where, like I said, inventory climbs and peaks, demand drops slightly, and then we go into the fall market. Guess what? My kids went back to school. Tuesday, 3 of them. Monday, 1 of them. Last week, 1 of them went to Washington State University. We have an empty house other than 1 kid. He starts preschool Montessori next month. So when that happens, not a very good time for Stephen Thomas to move or other families. People still move all times of the year, but if you got to think about when's the best time for a family to move, it's the end of spring, summer. And then once we get to the end of August or when kids go back to school, it's not as easy of a time. We still have some that are closing and they're willing to deal with the problem. But once you get to about September, it definitely, all bets are off. So really, it's not September 20th, the beginning of fall. It's when those kids go back to school. So once we hit September 1st, you know that the market's transitioning. You can feel it in the marketplace right now. And people are going to make a big deal about seasonality because they have nothing else to talk about but this housing market. Inventory slowly drops, and so does demand at the same rate. So the market feels no different, but there are fewer homes on the market, and there are a fewer buyers out there. Then we get into the holidays, and that's when inventory plunges and demand plunges. And people go, it can't plunge from where we are today. Yes, it can. It did last year, and it blew my socks off. It's going to again this year. You've seen that house that's been sitting there for a long time. It comes the holidays, they're going to pull it off. There's a few of them out there, and enough of those few aggregate together, guess what? Plunge. We're going to start off next year in a really difficult spot. Inventory, this is the winter market. This is after the first 10 days of January. This is when we give up our New Year's resolutions. So at that point, inventory does not change much. It begins winter, and demand increases a lot. And you guys say, yeah, Super Bowl is the best time to place your home on the market. It is, but it's winter. Who places their home on the market in the winter? I could prove they don't. In January and February, they do more in March, second half of March, definitely April. April's a big one, and so is May. Those are the 2 biggest months as far as number of homes coming on the market. It happens every year. So yeah, it's a great time to sell, but I don't want to sell in the middle of the year. That's what happens with families. So we have this winter season. So Orange County supply. This is our inventory. This is where it's at. Yes, we've been much, much higher than where we are at right now. We've never been this low before. August 5th, that was 2 weeks ago today. We crunched the numbers tonight. I do have a sneak peek of where we are today. August 5th, we were at 2,520, down 1% or down 17 homes. Last year, we were at 4,449. That's 77% more than where we are today, but we were already working our way into I've never seen the market so low before last August. And look where we are today. I've been doing it since 2004. It was the lowest number I've ever seen for an August, period. And then 3-year average, 6,753. This is 2017, 18, and 19. I throw out 2020, and that's because 2020 will be bad for averages forever. But that 3-year average is 6,753. So we should have about 6,800 homes on the market right now. And we have 2,500 homes on the market. So the low was on June 10th at 2214. We've gone up 14% since. That was the summer that we had that I told you about, that we'd go up in inventory, and people thought that the market was slowing because all of a sudden we got more inventory. Today we're at 2,495. It's down another 1%. That's what I'm seeing right now. And you know what that tells me? I think we may have hit a peak already. A peak at 2,500 homes. So we have an issue because I wanted it to go up because I'm rooting a little bit against the market because I want it to slow down a little bit from the craziness that it's at right now. And the only way to have that happen was higher interest rates. I thought we were going to have higher interest rates so we can go up in inventory, but no, that's not what's happening. Instead, we're going down. And that's because of interest rates being as low as they are and where they will be for the remainder of the entire year. And oh, by the way, after that hit where that blue line is, got to add it. It then plunges from there, and we'll start off next year with fewer than 2,000 homes on the market. That's probably what we're going to have in Orange County. How's that sound to you? Yeah. Well, we thought 2013 was bad, then this year was worse, and then the start of 2022 is going to be nasty. It just, yeah, rest up. Enjoy the holidays, get ready for it, because it's going to be hard once we get to January. So not enough homes on the market, we talked about that. COVID-19, that's not really what it is that's keeping people from placing their homes in the market. It's not this Delta thing that's keeping, because we've all know how to deal with living with the virus now. Instead, it's, yes, we can make lots of money for my home. However, it's very, very hard to buy, I hear. I know, I have friends that have done it. So where will I go? This is an actual picture of the deli section at my supermarket a year ago in April. Remember that? Yeah. That was dumb. I actually did take pictures. So the prices have been soaring. So homeowners are happy just to sit there and wait. Go onto Zillow. I know you can't stand Zillow, but everybody goes onto Zillow. See how much my home's worth. Oh my gosh, look what my home's worth. I got my refinance done recently, and holy smokes. I couldn't believe what the appraisal came in at. Very, very happy with my appraisal. I'm very, very sad for how high it went up in less than 2 years. So Orange County demand, a little nutty. And like I said, interest rates are the reason. And you guys are dealing with an auction-like atmosphere. People go, how high should I go above the asking price? I don't know. Why don't you figure out what you're happy with paying on a monthly basis, because that's what you're going to be paying all the time, and then make that offer. That's it. So people say, how much? How much above? I have no idea. I'm a quantitative economics, but I can't tell you how this works because I'm not very good at the church auctions either. Not very good at them. I have an idea of what I want to come in at for that little trip over there, and then it goes way above it, and I go, shoot, guess we're not going to the Bermuda. Couldn't anyways. It's fun to pretend. So the asking price is actually the reserve price. That's what I say. That's it. And it's like your little holiday auctions that you do. Sold over asking, that's the flavor of the year. I can't wait for them to update this, but CAR, I listened to 45 minutes of CAR talking about the economy. And I hoped they would update this, but I didn't hear it. So this is through June. 71.4% of all homes in the state of California for the month of June, closed sales, sold above their asking prices. The average is 103.4%. There you go, across California. You know this is going on across the United States too. Heard all about it. That's why there's so many people that think it's going to crash. And demand, last 30 days worth of escrows, right? This is August 5th, 2,809. Was down 3 pending sales in a 2-week period. So demand kind of already peaked though. You could see last year we were at 3,281. See why we can't compare this year to last year? See that? People are constantly saying, well, look, we have less demand than last year. Well, yeah, of course. Look at how much demand we had in April. You weren't talking about it then, Mr. Blogger or Vlogger, because we were more than double or triple where we were at in April compared to where we were at this year during the springtime. Instead, we moved our spring and had it during the summer. We didn't even peak until we got to September 1st. Last year in Orange County. That's not normal. Last year, so it's 17% more than where we are today. But you look at 3-year average, 2017 and 2019, 2,630, that's 6% less. And my argument is it would be higher if we had more homeowners that placed their homes on the market. That's been a real issue this year. We've already talked about that. The peak was on April 1st at 3,162 because that's spring. More people come on the market during the spring, and they did this year as well. So as a result, we had more that went into escrow. It's gone down 11% since April 1st. And today, I snapped it so far. I'll have the official numbers tonight, but 2,711, that's down 3%. So you can see demand's coming down a little bit. So is the inventory. Right now, demand's coming down a little bit faster than inventory, and it kind of like gyrates back and forth. but this is typically where we peaked. Because of how low the inventory's been and the number of homes that have not come on the market, the peaks have been kind of like before or after. I think San Diego's was after, ours was before. We were on April 1st. But where we're going to go, that's where we typically peak. It's between April and May. Where we're going to go is slowly but surely, it'll be pretty flat, very similar demand. We know that whatever gets placed on market will come down, and then we're going to go down from there and plunge during the holidays. So how fast is this market? Fast. So the lower the number, the faster the market, right? So the market time, if we tell a seller, if we're sitting down with them on August 5th was at 27 days. It was at 27 days for 5 weeks straight. Last year we were at 41 days this time, and it was already extremely hot. 3-year average is 78 days, way higher than where we are today, than what we're accustomed to. We're at 27, look at that. Low was on April 1st at 21 days. Now we're at 27 days. This is that slow summer shift. So we went from 21 to 27 days. And then today we're at 28 days, went up a whole day. So we're gonna be playing here for a while. Anything below 60 is a hot seller's market. Between 60 and 90 is a slight seller's market. That's where we were in 2019. Above that is actually balanced. People don't talk about it enough. They say, oh, it's no longer a seller's market, it must be a buyer's market. No, it's not. It's called balanced market. It moves all the way from 90 to 120, and then above there is a buyer's market. And we're not even anywhere close. The only time we got there was when we got interest rates that got all the way up to 5%. And then it came down because we had interest rates fall really fast. This is where I thought it was going to go with higher interest rates that was supposed to continue to go through the summer till now, and we're going to be, should be at 3.25% and then make our way to 3.5% by the end of the year. That's what I was hoping. But nope, didn't do that. Instead, we're going to have a flat line. We're going to have the supply fall at the same rate as demand falling, and instead we're going to have this funky market below 40 days. Below 40 days, I'm here to tell you, is insanity. That's the market you're experiencing. And we're well below 40 days. So understand that home values are skyrocketing. There really is no end to this. I'm looking at not only housing, I'm looking at everything, any which way. I'm looking at exogenous forces. That's somebody at CAR told me about that. That means an outside force. I'm looking for something that is going to dislodge our housing market. I can't find it in anything that I'm looking at. I'm looking, it's like an instrument panel for a cockpit of a 747. I look at a lot of stuff and I can't find it. And I listen to all these jokers talk about it, and they bring up stuff, which brings us to this darned housing crash that everybody is talking about. Home values is the real reason. They're skyrocketing upwards, and when it goes up this fast, they go, it can't be right. This is not normal. It shouldn't happen. So, and I hear real estate agents do these vlogs, and they talk about it. Yeah, you know what? People call me a drama queen. I was listening to one this morning. People call me a drama queen, and but that's because I like to call it like it is. And I have this feeling that it's not right. That the market, when it goes up like this, it shouldn't be like this. So it's going to crash. And she's talking about this has 300,000 views. 300,000. I'm lucky if I get 2,000 views, and that's because I'm an economist talking about the housing market, and I make sense, and I'm not talking about something that's negative. You can't search really positive things about the housing market right now. So they're dealing with fear. That's what they're tapping into, is fear. Their fear of, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy at the top of this market, and then it's going to all come crumbling down like the 2000s, which is a completely different market than right now. I mean, totally opposite market than where we are right now. And that's what I had to do once we went into this, into the COVID lockdown to begin with. Remember my videos back in the day? I started doing them, and I don't know if you saw them. I was telling everybody, it's going to be fun. We're going to appreciate. And people are going, are you crazy? How are we going to appreciate by the end of the year? Because we are. The fundamentals show it. And we're not topping out. And instead, everybody's busy. You can actually look at Google Trends, see what people are searching. And this is housing crash. Yes, we searched like crazy when we went into the pandemic, and guess what? We search even more right now for housing crash than ever before. Right now, everybody's out there, it's gotta be a crash, it's coming. And who do you think is doing this? All the people that want to buy and they missed out. All your buyers that are sitting on the sidelines, they're looking at it because that's what they're hoping for. And the people that are rooting for evictions, not evictions, foreclosures and all that stuff the most are the people that work short sales and foreclosures and asset management companies. That's what they're looking for. So Google Trends bubble, housing bubble. Yeah, it's up there. I mean, I don't know why we were searching for it in 2016. We were searching more for it recently. How about housing supply and demand? It's like an EKG, like 3 people look it up one day in all the United States, then 0. That's what this is. And here it is on the right-hand side, 0 right now. So if I stack all these 3, look what's on the right-hand side. Everybody's searching housing crash. Bubble and housing supply and demand are here on the bottom right-hand side. So this just shows you how many people are concerned about the crash that is inevitably going to happen. And yes, they talk about the CPI. If I don't mention it in a meeting, somebody will inevitably raise their hand and talk to me a little bit about inflation and why it's going to happen. And that's because of this over here. But they forget this is the highest since November 1991. It's definitely a problem. It's definitely. It's a huge problem. And they're thinking it's going to be like the 1970s, where if you had an odd license plate, you can go Monday, Wednesday, Friday to fuel up on gas. And on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, if you have an even, you can go fuel up for gas. Does anybody remember those days other than me? Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. You remember that? It's 2 other people that are like right around 50 or above. So it's not going to be anything like that. We're not anywhere close to the ridiculous that happened in the 70s and everything that led up to it. Instead, we're dealing with a lot of social media misinformation, and there's a lot of vloggers that get up there, they dress all nicely, they're not wearing pants, they don't need to. I didn't need to either. So you could sit there and you could talk about whatever you sound like an expert and all that stuff, and everybody's listening to it. But the problem is, a lot of these people are talking, there's no charts going up, but they do pull up some charts. And here's this kind of the housing crash in 2021. This is the gal that I was telling you about that had 300,000 about the housing crash in 2021 that she predicted 6 months ago or something like that, and 9 months ago in 2021. Still hasn't materialized, but she's still talking about it. And then there's this other guy that talks about in Vegas how bad it is, and in Boise is where it's going to start, and all that good stuff. And then I saw this the second one that I was telling you about from the blogs. You can see this is inventory levels across the United States, and I don't know why they have this up there, but everybody's pulling this out and saying, look, inventory went way down, but look how much it's come up since. See that? It's really come up. This is across the United States. Yeah, look at this this goes from June 2020 to June 2021. I don't understand why they're doing it, because this is the misinformation. Look, it's on the right-hand side. It's that little piece right there. Look at that. This is the inventory going back in time, going back to 2016. And you can see, does that look different? We still have very little inventory. And yet, there slowly but surely we were getting less and less inventory as each year progressed, and then it dropped once we got to COVID, because we started off 2000, out of the last 4 years, 2020 was the lowest start to the year prior to COVID, and then COVID just made it a disaster, the housing crisis that we have right now. Short-term supply chain problems, that is really what's behind a lot of the inflation. Lumber and global chip shortage, we've heard all about it. Lumber went way up, and then it's come way down since then, and you're not seeing it yet because all these people bought it at the high level. They have to get rid of their lumber. It takes time for it to even trickle down to everything. It's just the way the economy works, and they're not in a rush to go ahead and reduce it all the way. It will be sticky higher than normal anyways for a very long time. And used cars are a big part of the problem. When you can sell your used car for more than you bought it for, there's an issue. There's a little bit of an issue. And the reason that is because there's lots of reasons. The number one reason is these car rental agencies got rid of all their fleets, and then they wanted to purchase them, and they couldn't build them, the new cars, because of the chips. And as a result, they couldn't build them. They went to the used car market to do it. So they flooded the market. Everybody went back to work. They needed used cars. Now no one can find used cars. So it's a real issue, and it has to do with this chip thing, which will be fixed by 2022, the start of 2022. That's what I'm being told in everything that I've been looking at. And if you don't believe me, this is the biggest change in prices are what? Cars and truck rentals and used cars and trucks. They're the biggest piece of this inflation mix. When you pull it out, it's not that big of a deal. So understand that. And inflation, very, very transitory. Some of it will stick around afterwards. They talked about that. Yes, it will stick around, but it's not going to continue to go up like it did in the 70s. And this was a beat, and this is why the interest rates went up a little bit, but now they're coming back down. Monthly job reports for July were at 943,000. It was higher than expected, and unemployment then dropped to 5.4%. And in the great scheme of things, it's really dropping fast. And the job recovery, we only are missing 5.7 million people that are still getting extra money for their on a monthly basis. So just understand that goes away in September. Job openings outnumber jobless. So there's more job openings right now than there are jobless. Did you know that? It's less than 1. When it's a 0.9, that's where we were prior to the pandemic, and that's where we have returned. And it means that guess who is in the driver's seat of the labor market right now? Labor. And it hasn't been like that for a very long time. And they're right now saying, I'm not going to go do some French fries unless you pay me $20 an hour. And that's what it's amounting to. They're not going to be able to make $1 million with their franchise anymore. They're going to have to make $900,000 and pay their people more to make French fries. And so the workers are are in the driver's seat. And then pandemic, this recession only lasted 2 months. Did anybody know that? 2 months. That's it. Do you see that? It's February and April 2020. I heard somebody argue it should be like 4 months. I really don't care. What this tells you is the World War II, since World War II, it's the shortest recession on record, period. We knew that was what was going to happen. The longest one was the Great Recession, which is what everybody compares this thing to before. And it was a totally different thing. And homeowners equity, that was a credit bubble on the left-hand side that inflated that, and that was subprime. Dogs got loans. Everybody, you could be dead and you could get a loan. It's true. Dead people and dogs got loans, and as a result, it created artificial demand because these people shouldn't have been buying houses, and it made home equity rise because people were getting bad stuff. And I could see this thing coming like a freight train. On the right-hand side, see how much equity we have in the housing stock? Mortgage debt hasn't really gone up that much, but what has? Equity. People are sitting on a boatload of equity right now. And this is purchase application index in the 2000s. You could see prior to the Great Recession, that was what we call a credit bubble. This is what we call normal, nice trend line. That's not a bubble. And that's what we're dealing with right now. It did look like it was bubblicious at first when we went into it, but that was makeup demand in mortgage purchase applications when we came out of the lockdowns. And you know what? We're not doing any slim shady, no shady lending going on at all, right? It's very, very hard. As a matter of fact, a lot of these programs that are putting together, people are going, that's subprime. I go, I'll take that loan. I'll lend the money. I mean, it makes sense. They actually have to qualify. You can't be a dog, you can't be almost dead, and you have to have good credit. And mortgage originations with less than 620 FICO scores, this was in 2006, $376 billion. In 2020, $74 billion. You see? Very healthy. Mortgage originations by credit scores, see that on the right? That blue is 760 plus credit scores. And if you look on the left, lots of junk. Or they should have had higher rates or qualified differently. That's what it's all about. Supply and demand is really what this is all about. And supply, you can see, this is 2005. I knew in 2005 because we went from having about 5,000 homes on the market to about a little over 8,000 homes on the market by the time we got to the year's end. So we went too high. And then we started off the next year, that was 2006, with just under 8,000 homes, and then went all the way up to 16,000 homes. Supply and demand, and I could see it happen. I was squawking about it in 2005, and people weren't listening to me. It really didn't matter, but now I'm sure that they would listen to me if I showed them charts, because I do things differently now. And then we started off 2007 with about, a little over 12,000 homes on the market, and went all the way up to 18,000 homes on the market. Remember how many homes we have on the market? You guys remember what it was? 2,500? 18,000? Do you see the difference? A lot more homes. Do you remember back then there was like 4 homes available on every street? Now there's 0. Big difference. And forbearance, this is this big wave. This is what I did my last report on, and it's changed even since then. We went from 3.4% of all mortgages in forbearance to 3.26% in the last week. And it keeps falling like this. It's now at 1.6 million people that are in forbearance. The height of the number of people that were in forbearance at one time was 4.3 million in June. 87% of those 1.6 million have 10% plus equity. What does that mean? That means that they have enough equity to sell their home if they had to. That's what that means.
Is this Orange County or?
That's the United States of America. It doesn't sound like a foreclosure wave anywhere across the U.S. And this is 5.5 million people have exited forbearance. Did you know this? This is Black Knight does this breakdown, but removed and are performing now. They've done some workouts or done something. Removed and are performing are now 3.5 million, 63% of all mortgages. Removed, paid off, 1.4 million, 26% of all those people that came out of 5.5 million. Removed and delinquent, but they're right now working it out with the workout as to what they did because they came out recently, 369,000. I've actually watched that thing grow, so the workout units are busier than they've ever been before. That's 6%. And then removed and delinquent and not working with anybody, 222,000. 222,000, you can add another 200,000 or 150,000 to that, and you're right at what we were on a yearly basis for foreclosures. That's not that many foreclosures across the United States. That is not a wave in that yellow. So nope, no foreclosure wave. And instead, let's talk about affordability, because everybody does. There's a mortgage rate sensitivity. And if you haven't seen this before, it makes sense. Back in 1990, we had 10% interest rates. We can't stomach a 10% interest rate, right? And usually I have some millennial in the room, somebody that went, when were they 10%? They were 18% back in 1981. 8% in year 2000. Prior to the Great Recession, 6.35% right prior. And that is, 6.35%, doesn't that sound high? Remember when that sounded low? I can. 5% is where we got in 2018, in November of 2018. Do you remember what happened when we got to 5% interest rates? Everything slowed down, inventory rose, made for a 2019 that was a lot slower and we didn't see as much appreciation. But now that we've been going up where we are right now, 4% is the new threshold. If we got an interest rate of 4%, that would really slow down our market considerably, right? Before we were saying 5%, now 4%. 3.75% if we continue to go up at this ridiculous thing like I think we might in the year 2022, we'll be at 3.75%. And if it continues to go up next year and we have more and more multiple offer situations, bidding situations, it can get all the way down to 3.5% will be our sensitivity threshold. If we're playing around 2.75%, or maybe it goes down to 2.5% because of a stock market crash or correction, then what we have is our 3.5% is going to be the floor. But yes, there's going to be a lot of homeowners or buyers that are going to say, I don't want to buy anymore. I can't do this anymore and I can't afford it. They're going to crunch the numbers and go, I can't do it. Yeah, I should have bought, but a lot of them tried and just can't. Or they do 50 offers, they say, I'm done. But if they did 100, they would have done it. But it's just, do they have the buyer survey where all the buyers out there right now are saying it's not a good time to buy? Yeah, it's really hard to buy. It's actually good if you can get into a home, but yeah, it's not the best time to be a buyer right now. That's really what that sentiment is. And if we get, as we get interest rates that rise, it will slow down our market. That's what it's going to take to eventually slow down our market. Not turn it into a buyer's market, because we're not going to go from 2.86% interest rates all the way up to 4.5% interest rates. It will be a lot more slower of a grind. So real quick, market overview. Just know that millennials, we have a really strong demographic patch right now of millennials. That's the prime first-time home buyer age is 32 years old. Started last year and it goes on this year and the next 3 years. And so it's bigger. Gen X, which is myself, there weren't as many of them. I don't know what those baby boomers were doing, but they didn't have as many babies, and there they are, the orange. So there weren't as many, and so there weren't as many first-time home buyers. Now there's a whole bunch coming, and there's more Gen Zs, but then it trails off as you get older. But closed sales for July, it's only up 7% year over year. It's not as dazzling as before. And we were hitting records that we hadn't seen since 2005 in earlier this year. We hit that definitely in June. It was the strongest since I believe it was August of 2005. So that's closed sales. But luxury is still surging. This is it on the right-hand side. Do you see this? This is 1.5 million plus. People are going, 1.5 million, that's no longer luxury. Can you believe you're saying that out loud? Seriously. 2 years ago, if I would have told you 1.5 million it would not be luxury, you'd laugh at me. At the beginning of this year, it's the top 10% of the market. 1.5 million was definitely the threshold. I will revisit that the beginning of next year. But here we are, that Himalaya on the right. These are the number of closed sales above 1.5 million. And green was last year, never done those numbers before. And then red is this year, never done those numbers. July of 2021, we were at 561. We had never done that prior to March of this year. It's up 76% over last year, 243 additional luxury closed sales above 1.5 million. There's only 561 in all of the closed sales data. So luxury, if you don't think this has legs, this is the market time, the expected market time for luxury above 1.5 million. I was just on the phone with Philip Molnar from San Diego Union Tribune to give him this stuff because he was doing something on luxury. The expected market time for luxury is 50 days. 50 days, and that's for all of Southern California. It's like this in every county. 50-day expected market time for 1.5 million plus. Isn't that juicy? That just shows you it's all ends of the market are extremely hot. And for all those people that are saying that everybody's leaving California, they did the 2010 census, they did the 2020. See California on the bottom left-hand side, I should have circled it. It's green in San Diego and Orange County, and also Los Angeles is green as well. There are more people, the population has grown for Southern California, and pretty much for California for that decade. There is this thing, and this is the California Policy Lab, is the University of California. This is gonna geek out, but I'm telling you, people are not moving out of California. If you look at that, that's the exited number of exits, and you can see that's the trend line, that dotted line. We already have been exiting California for many years at a little bit more of a velocity. We hit that 200,000 threshold in 2017, and it continues to rise. There was no spike because of COVID, like the papers made it out to be, and everybody's leaving California. We just had a lot of money where we can go invest and go wherever we want, and go to Idaho, get a $700,000 McMansion, and have a farm and everything else. So, and then the entered the state, you could see, come down a little bit. So last year was the first time that we had a net loss. Tiny, it was like 20,000 or something like that was the net loss. So just know that UC did the study and they found no correlation to COVID and exits out of the state of California. It came out in July last month. The high cost of renting, rents are skyrocketing right now. And if you don't believe me, go take a look at a rental that you've done recently or you heard about and look at what it's doing right now if it re-rented, and you will poop your pants. And thank goodness you own a home, because it really is skyrocketing out of control. And that's on the right-hand side. So go to reportsonhousing.com, hit subscribe, $15 a month, $150 per year, a month free if you sign up utilizing the forum. I do have my housing brief tomorrow, every Friday at 3. You can watch it afterwards. And now I can open it up to any questions that you have. So thank you. Yes?
Permits, new buildings, how is that going to affect what's going on out there?
There's a lot of emphasis placed on new builds and the number of permits and all that stuff. They're not going to get burned like they did in the 2000s, ever again. So they look at their inventory levels, and based upon inventory levels, and they're trying to push the envelope in price, based upon inventory levels is how much they go ahead and build. Right now, they're starting to build their inventories a little bit. They haven't even built a lot of these. They're trying to sell stuff that they haven't even built, but there's not as much demand because they're pushing the envelope in terms of price, and as a result, their inventories have risen, so the confidence of builders has come down. Don't listen to a lot of that stuff. They're going to keep it at wherever direction they want. It's totally different than residential resale, and you cannot extrapolate what they're doing and what they're saying based upon what's really going on in the housing market to totally different lanes.
How much do you feel the tax cut or the limitation of tax deduction of interest rates has affected our market?
You mean the
deduction to $10,000 max limitation of interest rate?
Oh, how much has it affected the $10,000? You mean where you're only able to do $10,000 as a deduction? How much has it impacted he's asking, that $10,000 deduction that you're able to get includes property taxes and all that good stuff. It's limited at $10,000, right? How much has it affected our market? Not that much. We still have a problem.
Didn't that affect the inventory? Because we saw the inventory not coming on board.
It was Yeah, he said it didn't affect the inventory. We already had an inventory problem that was happening prior to even that happening. It started, we used to place a lot more homes in the market. We had the Great Recession. We did something completely different after the Great Recession. Fewer homes came on the market. I could show you statistically how it went way up here and then it came way down here. Lots of speculation. People were treating their homes as assets. We learned during COVID too how important our home is, so it's even changed it further. You think that was a shift? It's another shift right now in what we think of our home. For all those people that used to travel a lot because they had business and weren't traveling, now are stuck at home, and they're going, yeah, I don't like my house at all. And now I know what my wife was talking about, and now I know what my husband was talking about. That type of thing. It's shifting the way we think about that asset called home. It's no longer an investment. It really is house. So I've been seeing this downshift. It's just a trend that has been continuing, and it really that didn't exasperate it, didn't change it, it didn't fall, it didn't really change. It's just this nice smooth line. Any other questions? Bram.
Can you share like what's good news, right? Because we're talking about.
Are you a homeowner?
Interest rate. No, that's good for us, but I think we're all salespeople, and so it's like, interest rates. You mentioned, when they rise, it's going to slow the market down. But we really need listings, right? We really need more inventory, and you mentioned that you don't know what's going to cause more inventory. So where's opportunity? Where's good news?
The inventory will eventually, as soon as we scream up to the level of values where enough buyers start going, yeah, I don't think so, and start turning around, we can see the inventory start to climb. Then we get more inventory out there, then the people that were saying, yeah, I'd like to do it, but there was nothing before for me to purchase, they can go ahead and do it. So that's really what we either have higher interest rates so that the inventory can rise, or values get to the point where buyers start turning away. And that doesn't, because right now, how many buyers are coming through houses right now? It has to do with affordability. I can show that. Because interest rates dropped so much that things became so affordable that everybody wanted to take advantage of it. So we have to either have values come up to the point where not everybody wants to take advantage of it, so there's not as much demand on it because you're already dealing with. I heard people say I don't work with buyers anymore. Used to be I wouldn't even FHA. I'm not working with the FHA buyer. Now it's I don't work with buyers. That's this time. FHA was in 2013. Not working with anybody doing FHA. But this time around it's I don't work with buyers. I've actually heard that come out of agents' mouths. So that just shows you how many buyers we're all dealing with. How many people have a buyer they can work with right now in this room? Right, so it's pretty much everybody has buyers. That's not what the issue is homeowners. So the only way to fix that is to make values go up enough. And that's what they're doing. They're screaming towards that level where it will finally hit a level where enough buyers will back out. Exactly when that happens, I don't know, but we're going there pretty fast. So I imagine 2022, we're going to hit that threshold at some time where it'll allow more homes to come on the market just because people are doing the math. They're going, I can't do it. The problem is then you throw in more millennials that are purchasing at the same time. So it added that demand pool. It started last year. So it just exasperated the whole entire thing. So it will get to a point where values, it's price, right? It's definitely price. So yeah, you can go buy a new car right now. You just have to pay a little bit extra. So a lot of people are going, yeah, I'm not going to do it because I saw what that's what they're selling those brand new cars for. So you're waiting for a price, right? So you're out of the marketplace. Other people will go ahead and purchase the new cars because they're still selling new cars. So that's just what it boils down to. So that's what I'm trying to do is try to give you the real scoop behind it. I wish I could sugarcoat it a different way and say that it's going to be easier, but we need to know what's coming ahead of us. We're working with plenty of buyers. It will get to a point where some of our buyers will say, I'm no longer doing it. My own hairstylist, I convinced him last December to purchase. He wrote 50 offers. By the time we got to, I didn't represent him or anything, but by the time he got to June, he finally closed the beginning of June. Wrote 50 offers. I had to sit in his chair every single month. And seriously, he should have paid me, but I was paying him, and I was telling him to stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. He couldn't be happier right now. He couldn't be happier because he finally was able to purchase it. He's the dual income. He's doing the hairstyling. His wife is an architect. They have a brand new kid. You have a kid, you want a house. That's exactly what happened. And he was able to pull the trigger and make it happen. He had to write an offer $65,000 above the asking price. He was looking at $750,000. You guys all know what that price point is like, right? Horrible. I'm not dealing with a buyer that's looking for a 700. Can you imagine we're saying that kind of thing? Seriously.
We aren't saying that kind of thing.
Good. Any other questions? Sorry.
Given the fact that all these purchases, people have purchased the properties, so the assumption would be that a lot of renters acquired a lot of properties. So what do you correlate the increase in the rent? Because that's supposed to be supply and demand. And if a lot of renters purchase properties, what is causing this spike in the rental income?
Yeah, what's causing the spike in the rentals market? A lot of people are staying put in their rentals. So there's not enough of them they're purchasing and are purchasing something else. But it just shows you how much appetite there is, because these millennials are getting older. They're moving out of their mom and dad's house, and they need to go rent something. And they're getting married, and they need to go rent something. And they're taking up space. And the baby boomers aren't selling their house. Remember that silver wave or silver tsunami that was supposed to happen? Yeah, they don't want to move. People, just because they retire, don't want to move out of their house. So there aren't enough houses for people, and it's the same issue with rentals. So they're purchasing stuff, but there's more millennials that are coming of age, that are married, having babies, that want to be in something, that are having a hard time going from those beautiful houses or apartments by Costco, getting out of that and going to find a single family resident detached house. It's driving up rentals. And it's everywhere. It's across the United States.
I've got kind of a two-part question.
Yeah.
His question brings it up. Are there stats relating to tenants that aren't paying rent? And how, I'm sure that ties into the forbearance thing. If you have tenants in place, they're not paying rent.
Yeah.
Forbearance. And the second part is, seriously, you went from 4.3 million in forbearance in June, or prior to that, and then now to 1 point. What made June such a...
Yeah, well, it was, she's asking, I'll do the last part first. Forbearance, they hit that high of 4.3 million back in June. It wasn't June of 2020. I should probably qualify that. It was June 2020, not June of 2021. I apologize. I do have to update that because we surpassed June. You're the first one to catch that. So I need to say it's June of 2020. So that was the height because it was right at the beginning of that wave of COVID, right? So I hope that answers that. So we went all the way from 4.3 down to 1.6. It's been slow, methodical, and there's a lot of people coming off. So somebody was paying close attention and fixed the slide that should have been fixed a couple of months ago. And so good for you. That's fantastic. The other thing was what was it again?
Stats on tenants
Yeah.
who weren't paying and how that affects the forbearance.
It's actually not that far off from where it should be. The number of people, there are a lot of evictions that take place normally anyhow, just as there's a lot of foreclosures. It's an unfortunate part, and it's been all pent up for a long time. So there will be a surge of more evictions that take place when some of these people that took advantage of the system and didn't get all their money or they're going to be evicted. There will be evictions just like there will be foreclosures. Unfortunately, the media and all the vloggers and everybody wants to think it's all doom and gloom. And what happens whenever you've thought about something negative that was going to happen and you are scared about it? You make something bigger of it in your head than what it really becomes. I know I've had a lot of different things happen in my life, and I've always thought, well, it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Not a big deal. So that's the thing. We make the worst possible outcome out of it, and so there's not going to be that wave of evictions, and it's not going to lead to way too many homes coming on the market, just like there's not going to be a wave of foreclosures and short sales that creates a lot of negative draw on our marketplace. I wish there'd be enough of them come on, because that is part of the problem. We don't have any foreclosures out there. It could add a little bit to the marketplace right now if we had more.
But there's no way to track the tenants.
There is a way of tracking the number of tenants that are not paying. And the best place is there's a national board of apartment owners, and they deal with all the big owners across the board. And you can extrapolate that out. It's a big enough subset that it falls down to the different homeowners as well that are mom and pop homeowners. It's a giant number. It's 11 million renters. So it's a big pool that they're able to draw from, and they're looking at not only year over year, but they're looking at the last 5 years at where we are. And we're only off by like 1%. And the biggest things that make the news when we first went into this pandemic is this national thing, they take the number on the 6th, the 15th, the 21st, and then the end of the month. And people would say that there are 3 million people that are behind in their rent on the 6th of the month. Guess what? That's normal. That's normal. There's a lot of slouches out there. And we're having whatever pickle. It's a normal human thing. It's a normal statistic. So you have to be careful about the statistics that you're listening to or watching. Any other questions? Well, I'll be here afterwards. If you're not a subscriber and you want the power of the subscription, I do have these forms for you to pick up and fill out if you'd like. And I'll be here afterwards for any questions that you have. Thanks again.
Well, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it's like, okay, how much of this information do you actually retain? Because there's so much of it. So everybody has like a role in this world, right? And there's special people that do special things. I can't do what he does. So thank you for that, Stephen. But we also, those that signed in, we're going to send the recording of today so you can take that information and use it. I think it was very important. We talk about like boxes, right? Going, here's our box, right? He just told us some of what is in the box. And then we have people that think outside the box. One of my clients, he owns a tremendous amount of McDonald's. And one time I was talking about being in the box, outside the box. He goes, that's the difference. I don't have a box, right? And because he takes this information and he creates it, right? And I think that's what's very important as far as the next step of opportunity, how we all work together to find out where that opportunity is, how to market to clients, because we know not everybody's gonna do it. They're just gonna complain. There's no inventory, there's none of this, and all the things. And it's a part of what we should be doing together to create what that next level is. So I thought about like a house dating app, where you, hey, I have a house here, and you create it here. So if anybody comes up with that, I want to see that. So, but anyway, we're gonna have everybody can stay till 3. I know some of you have to pick up kids and do that whole school thing again. So, but thank you guys so much for coming, Hajir. Appreciate it. If you don't want to say anything.
Thank you very much for coming. That's all.
All right. Enjoy the wine. Enjoy the food. Thank you guys. There you go.